Hello, good evening, everyone. John Henry Soto here. Welcome to Counterparts. George Batista coming to you live from upstate New York. I am in Nashville, Tennessee, and having a great day. It was a beautiful day today. A little chilly, but it was beautiful. How is it over there in where you are? Snow? 10 feet of snow already?
Almost. It's freezing up here. I think it
Really?
was yeah, well, yesterday when I went out in the morning, I think it was like 27 or something. It was like something like ridiculous like that.
Yeah, it was 70 here today.
Nice.
It's nice, yeah.
Yeah.
But we do get some cold. We get to, it gets down to about, it can get down to 30. It has gotten down to teens
Wow.
easily. Yeah, it has happened. But that's enough about the weather. Want to thank everybody for tuning in. As I always say at the beginning of all these shows, is that we definitely do not take this for granted that you spent some time with us here because we appreciate it, and we also know that there's a ton of other things that you could be doing. So for you to click and just listen to these two Puerto Ricans from the Bronx talking and we talk about positive stuff and we talk about overcoming barriers, which we're going to talk about today, and we have some fun. We make some really really bad jokes.
Yeah.
But we know that there's a lot of other things out there you can be doing, and we appreciate you being here with us. So, with that said, please hang out, and we'll be right back. Bienvenidos, amigos y amigas, al programa Contipulte. Me llamo
Now I know
Juan.
you're cursing somewhere in there. I'm telling
Juan
you.
Pulga. Um, so George and I have been having some great conversations about the show, about our future recently, and we're very excited about a lot of things, revelations, and sometimes it takes outside sources that care about you and that want to see you succeed to open up your mind and to clear away different things that have maybe been blocking you and just have a new perspective, basically. And I think that that's what's happened recently to us, and we're going to be talking about that in weeks to come, maybe even next week, um, on what's happening. But we are very excited, and we just have a lot of wonderful things in the works for everyone, because our purpose is always to help artists. um, George and I have been artists our whole lives, really. We've always been creative since we were kids. We were in bands together. We recorded records. We played a bunch of shows, and we had a wonderful time. And since then, we've continued that process, and we've devoted our lives to wanting to help people. So that is what this show is about. And that was one of our biggest revelations that we've had. And we're going to be talking about that more in the future. But first, before we get started, we do have a wonderful sponsor that we'd like to give some love to. So please, George, take it away.
Thank you, sir. So the Counterpart Show is brought to you by Wellness Resources, a family owned, operated nutritional supplement company providing the highest quality, clinically formulated supplements since 1985. Find out why I love them, and they are the choice of many health conscious individuals around the world. Make sure you check them out at myvitaminresource.com. Now, of course, as our listeners and viewers, if you enter the promo code Counterparts at checkout, you will get free shipping on your order. Plus, every month there is a monthly special, so you can take advantage of that. And this month, they have 25% off their immune supplements. Great immune supplements. Again, we're getting ready for the winter, right? It's very cold up here. We got to get our vitamin D and all our immune supplements and our immune system up to par. So if you want to do that, make sure you check them out again at Wellness Resources at myvitaminresource.com.
Cool. All right. So this week's episode, we're going to be talking about the overcoming barriers as an artist. Things that we've all experienced. There, sometimes, and maybe you can relate to this, George. Sometimes, don't you feel, even though you're with a band or you're with like-minded people, or you're, you just you're as an artist, you still kind of, this is me anyway, you still kind of feel alone sometimes
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
there's your own creative voice in your head that you constantly are working with and talking to, that nobody really hears everything that goes on, but you're
True.
thinking about creative things and you're listening to a piece of music and suddenly we just talked about Counterparts, the album by Rush, right? Which
Yeah. Yep.
we named the show after that album. And because of that, you were saying, "Oh, I haven't heard that in a while."
Right.
And you realize, but that's a conversation that you're having in your own head. You didn't go on social media and talk about it. You
True.
told me about it, and I was like,
Right.
"Oh yeah, that was something that happened." So that there's that creative stuff that's going on constantly, and can make someone feel kind of alone,
Correct.
at times.
Correct. Correct.
Um, you pound or you add on extra pounds of suppression on top of that. People who don't understand it,
Mm-hmm.
people who love you but and don't want to see you get hurt,
Right.
they recommend having something to fall back on and those kinds of conversations and stuff like that. As much as they're trying to do good, they don't realize that they're actually destroying the spiritual being, the part of the spiritual being that lives as an artist, right?
Right. Right.
Um, and that part of it is really what we're going to be talking about today, and just different areas of that, and George, I'm sure you have your experiences with that as well.
I do. And it's funny. I was thinking about it when we talked about doing this show, and we've talked about all the barriers you're dealing with, even just with family. That you think about as an artist. And I was thinking, like when you're a kid, it kind of because art, in and of itself, the way it's presently constituted in society, it's really not looked upon, in societally anyway, as a worthwhile endeavor.
As a
Into
career,
right,
it's not like
correct.
a,
It's
yeah,
not really looked upon. It's not really it's
yeah,
not highly regarded, right? So it's interesting because there's these phases, right? So when you're a 6 year old and you pick up a guitar and you start playing, your parents or whoever, or let's say they're not musicians or your family's not musicians, they're like, oh, how cute, little Johnny has his guitar, he's playing, blah blah blah. Then when you're 16-year-old and you're
they
playing
still call me
guitar,
Little Johnny. They call me Little Johnny now, but anyway,
exactly.
that's another story.
But but then when you're 16 years old and you pick up that guitar and you're playing, it's like, oh, he doesn't stop playing. He's making a lot of noise. What is he going to be, a starving musician? You start to get that thing, right?
Yeah,
Then when you're like 26, it's like, when you're going to get a real job,
right.
and you start to you start to go through those phases. So, again, if you don't grow up in a musical family who understands the art, right, it can be much more difficult because now you have to kind of go outside of that to find influence, to find like-minded people who understand you, and and when you have this calling you, like I always say that music called me. I didn't I didn't do anything. It literally was
I
there. It
didn't.
just
Yeah,
kept calling me, and I
I don't
had to
remember
do it.
forcing myself to listen to music.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
So yeah, so you have this, then you have this push and pull where I want to do this and I need to do this, but society and family and all this are trying to push me in this direction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So it's not an easy thing, but
yeah.
this is where you have to kind of push through that, and there's a lot of nuances that go through that. And we can talk about different
Yeah,
things and stuff like that. So
yeah, definitely. And I mean, it is definitely for me very real. I did rebel against you. We grew up
yeah,
together, so I rebelled against everything that I did not want to do. The school, menial jobs. Even though I didn't have an education, I'm like, who the hell am I to turn down a job? But I did because I was like, I ain't doing that. You know,
right,
for whatever reason and whatever, people may say, oh, he was just lazy. He doesn't want to work. He doesn't want to do anything. But it was like I knew there was something better for me, and I knew that I could do more. But I had to, once you walk that line, and you make that commitment to that thing, that treadmill of life that you get put on, it's very hard to get off that treadmill, man, because
correct,
that thing just picks up speed,
yeah,
and then you can't jump off because now you're too deep in.
right,
And it happens, with guys that are our age, that aren't able to really go play music,
Mm-hmm.
that aren't able to do the things that they do, but they have their houses with instruments. They got their man caves where they go play. They have their friends that come over to play, but
Right.
they're not really out there doing what they want to be doing because they got on the machine. They
Correct.
fell for the traps, right?
Right.
And I say traps in, I say traps very, I'm saying it very literally. I'm saying it's a trap. I'm not using that as a metaphor. I'm saying that it's a trap. Now, people who have kids, kids are wonderful. You have them young, that's great. And that's a decision that you make, and you have to then be responsible for those kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, now, having said that, the price of having a child and then trying to chase this career or this this insane industry, you know what I mean? That
Mm-hmm.
very few succeed in it,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but there's a lot of people making a living.
Right.
A lot of people making a living. You make 100 grand doing Ray Romano was talking the other day on an interview that I saw. And when he first got, he was on that show, News Radio, I think it was called.
News radio. Okay.
Yeah, he
That's the one
got
with
that
Joe.
gig.
The one with Joe Rogan was on there.
Joe Rogan
Yeah.
and Phil Hartman
Right.
and some other people I can't remember, but um, he got that gig. He was on that show, and he got fired like within a few days, like after rehearsals, because he just felt that he wasn't. He felt awkward. He wasn't. The audition went really well. He got the role,
Mm-hmm.
and then he just didn't feel right in that, and it came through. Obviously,
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
delivering lines probably like the way he delivered lines in Everyone Loves Raymond, but that was like his brand.
Sure.
And so he was talking about being on the road, and he was on the road during that time. He had been a stand-up for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
On a good year, he would make 100 grand
Mm-hmm.
being a stand-up on the road.
Right.
On a bad year, he'd make about 70, 75 grand. So I mean, you're making money. You're
Yeah.
doing something
Yep.
that you love to do, and you're going out. And there's a lot of travel, and that's the hard part of it. But
Mm-hmm.
still, he had 3 kids at that point. He's just going out doing stand up. What I mean, he's
Right.
making 70,000. He's a successful. He had done the Tonight Show. He had done a bunch of other stuff. And the you get that momentum going.
Mm-hmm.
And you start building and you start doing more stuff. But you still have to pay a manager. You got to pay an agent. You got to pay. You got
Correct.
to pay the booking person. You got to and that's a traveling. You got to the flights and the
Right.
hotels and everything. As you get bigger and bigger, that becomes more of the responsibility of the clubs, right, and the people
Yeah.
that are hiring you. But he was doing pretty well. So I find it you know uh, amazing that some people even and this is not to discourage anyone, but you have to love this.
Mm-hmm.
You have to love it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you have when you go to bed at night, it's the last thing you think about, and when you wake up, it's the first thing you think about.
Yep.
It's the art, it's music, it's film, it's nutrition. That George
Mm.
is obsessed now with nutrition. I mean, you have to the show that you do, and then this show, you have to love to do that, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
it's something that you know, people will look upon as sort of like what you said earlier, when are you going to get a real job
Right.
kind of a
Right.
mentality, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that usually comes from broken people.
Mm-hmm.
Their dreams have been shattered.
Mm-hmm.
Their environment was not the best, nurturing environment. There's a lot of things that you can go back and you can figure out why someone would say that, right?
Right.
Because I think about that with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like if my son or my daughter came up to me and they said they wanted to do, my daughter is doing dance now, my son's doing basketball. I mean, they're- I'm encouraging them 100%. I want them to do
Sure.
well.
Sure.
And if I see that they're, that maybe they can be operating a little bit better, maybe pay attention a little bit more to this, because I think you're really great. You're doing fantastic. Maybe if you focus on this, just as someone who's been around uh, art a long time,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I would do, but I would never be like, yeah, don't quit your day job. I had somebody tell me that once, like we had our new record came out.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the last glass of no one
Hmm.
came out, and they wanted a copy. This was when CDs were still the rage,
Right.
and so I gave somebody a CD and stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, I heard it. I heard it. Yeah, it was good. It's good. You know, just don't quit your day job." That's what he says to me. You know what I mean? Of course, he lost all his businesses,
Okay.
which
Well.
I
Yeah.
feel bad about, but at the same time, I was sort of like, yeah, that kind of justifies the comment. But anyway, so those experiences are really, what this episode is about, and hopefully we can lay out some things. I have a couple of things that I want to talk about
Cool.
as well. What were we gonna say?
No, no, I
Uh,
was just going to say, no, you're absolutely right. And sometimes there's difficult conversations involved, right?
oof,
I mean, very difficult. I've had many of those in my life with my mother, with my wife, right?
mhm,
And sometimes it just happens that way because, and sometimes there are artists that are born to parents who have a particular idea of what they want their kid to be, what they
mhm,
want their kid to do, right? They want let's say those parents have degrees in whatever it is, and they want their kids to follow in those
right,
footsteps. But that kid may be, for whatever reason, they have the gift of music. They have the
mhm,
gift of some kind of artist in them. It could be a painter, whatever it is.
right,
And there, and you've seen this in movies and stuff like that, where the kid is completely opposite of them, and then there's the struggle, because then
yeah,
it's like, well, we want you to do this. This is the life we envision for you, but this is not the life that I'm feeling as a kid. And this is
right,
kind of a little bit of what I went through, as a kid, because my mother had the thought for me of working in the city, and being working for the city, being a teacher, being whatever it is. And I had no interest in that. I
right,
was like, I'm not interested in doing that. And let's retire with a pension, and
yeah,
then we can sit down and just relax. And I was like, no. So you have there again. There's these difficult conversations you may have to have, and I'll talk about my wife later as well, because we've had conversations, very interesting ones actually. But sometimes you have to do that, in
yeah.
order to get your music played and your heart in the right place.
You really have to, and it's sad because not a lot of education is put out there. When it comes to this, you know what I
Right.
mean. There's not a when you're in school, you're not, you don't take a class on perseverance,
Right.
on motivation. They don't teach that in school. They
Right.
don't teach anything valuable in school. Actually, to be honest, they teach you stuff to do a job,
Yeah.
to push papers and to answer emails and to do reports and to do spreadsheets and stuff like that. They don't necessarily teach you entrepreneurship or banking or investment banking
Exactly.
or not investment, but investments,
Yeah.
those kinds of things. And but this is something that should be taught also.
Agree.
Dealing with suppression and dealing with people that are you know people that are trying to move you away from your vision, right?
Hmm.
And that's really the main thing.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was, also before we kind of dive in a little bit more, was that the strike is over,
Hmm.
the SAG after strike that went on for months, and so that's good because I've done non-union projects in the last couple of months. I did a couple of those, um, but it's been really difficult to try to get, especially now starting the talent agency. It was sort of like, well, you can sign people, but you can't really put them out for a lot of any union work. So that's always a challenge. But one of the things that anyway, I'm going to go over real quickly just what was released
Hmm.
so far, and this was 4 days ago. I think it was on the
Hmm.
yeah, on the 10th. So it says here the SAG-AFTRA National Board met today in a video conference plenary and approved a tentative agreement for the 2023 TV theatrical contracts reached with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, the AMPTP. Oh, sorry. On November 8th, 2023. With the board's approval, the deal now goes to the union's membership ratification for ratification. The board approved the tentative agreement by a majority of 86% to 14% and recommended a vote of yes to ratify the contracts. And it says here, I was determined, this was from Fran Drescher. I was determined to redefine SAG AFTRA as not only the largest entertainment union in the world, but the most powerful. And now that we have forged the biggest deal in industry history, which broke pattern, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that because that's big, established new revenue streams, and passed a historic $1 billion plus deal with the most progressive AI protections ever written. I feel pretty confident in saying that this is a paradigm shift of seismic proportions. I'm so proud of the TV Theatrical Negotiation Committee and so thrilled to have partnered with Duncan Crabtree, Ireland, said SAG after President Fran Drescher. Upward and onward and upwards. Isn't it upwards and onward? I guess it doesn't matter. Onward and upwards. Um, so yeah, I mean, she's kicking. I mean, man, and
Can't
the
argue with
reason
it.
that yeah, the reason this is kind of a really really big deal is because it did break what was norm. Like
Yeah.
you don't get streaming services. Imagine you do a show for 5 years, and you get paid for the show to do the show, and then after the show is in, it goes into streaming, and then you never see
Yeah.
another penny. Where
Yeah.
in the old days, the old model was syndication, right?
Yep.
It made millionaires out of these actors that devoted their lives to entertainment, were lucky enough to get the breaks, and then delivered an amazing product during that time, right?
Right.
So, people say, like, oh, yeah, well, it's easy to do it if you get that much money. Shut up. You don't originally get that much money.
Right.
You start off with the idea that you wish you can do good,
Yeah.
right? That's the only thing you have in the beginning. I really want to do good because I really love this, right? Jerry Seinfeld is a perfect example. He's a stand-up comedian, very successful stand-up comedian. He did the Tonight Show a bunch of times. He's done all this stuff. NBC offers him a gig, and what happens? He doesn't get the first thing goes through. They don't really like it. They don't really know it. He has no ideas for shows. Then Larry David, of course, him and get together. They go to this like a Korean deli kind of place, and they start kind of making jokes about some of the drinks and the stuff that they couldn't pronounce and all that stuff. And then Larry was like, "Yeah, distribute a show."
There you go.
What? He goes, "Yeah, two comedians just talking about stuff," and that was the genesis of that. They had no idea what they were gonna do. They created a freaking monster. It was like one of the most successful shows in history, if not the most successful show, definitely financially. And um, but during the process of putting that together, there's no certainty.
Right.
So the show now goes into syndication, and of course they get paid a lot of money. But if it had been today going into Netflix or Hulu or one of these places with the streaming, they wouldn't have. That's it, you're done, and you
Yeah.
go off and you have to find money somewhere else. So that right there is really really huge because they completely shifted all that now. Now everyone gets paid. Now it's a completely different. It's a new era for
Mm.
entertainment.
Mm.
And this is the most exciting thing that I can think of to happen in entertainment, because we all know that there's been some trouble in the entertainment industry, and I'll say it because I've said it before, and I know I go a little bit overboard sometimes, but when you start letting Satan and satanic things into mainstream entertainment as if it's like it's not a funny thing, right? It's not
Right.
being humorous.
Right.
It's being part of. They want to be part of the norm,
Yeah.
and you're not. You're
Mm.
not. It's like the devil was used to represent evil in movies. That's what it was. So now they're trying to represent it as art, and in my opinion, it's not. It's satanic. So I mean, that's a little bit extreme, but I don't think it is. I don't think I've actually talked enough about that. But what's happening right now is that there's a lot of artists now that are going to get an opportunity to make decent living doing what they love to do. And I'm not talking about the 1% of the 1% of the 1%
Yeah.
that make a gazillion dollars by just showing up on a film set. I'm not talking about those guys. I'm talking about the working, not just actors. I'm talking about the whole I'm talking about the unions. I'm talking
Yeah.
about the grips. I'm talking about the guy who makes the food for the craft services. I'm talking, you know what I mean? The first AD, second AD, the third AD, all those people, the all of them, now will get a chance to actually make a, a living. And I think this was a really big deal for it. So that was one, and then of course the AI thing was massive, because AI is it's so crazy that what the goal is, what the goal is of the AM, TPT or PT, whatever, is to have AI write a script, and then have AI software build the characters, and then have them build the sets, and then have them tell the story, and then sell the film without ever paying one person except the programmers. That's the goal. That's the goal. And will it get to that point? Probably. Unfortunately, I think there'll be some of that going on, but it's going to be sort of like people are going to look at it now like, is this real sugar or is this artificial sugar?
Right. Right.
Is
Right.
this the sugar that at least grows on a cane, that is natural to the earth, that is better for you than the chemicals man-made garbage?
Right.
And it's going to have that representation at some point. People are going to be like, is this AI or is this real people? Because I want to hear about real people. I want to hear real stories told by real souls, not by algorithms.
No, I agree. I agree. And again, it's that's the digital age in general because it's affecting everything, right? We've talked about the sports thing, right? How it's affected
Yeah, that's
sports, how it's affected all
ruined
these types of
sports, in
things.
my opinion.
And in my opinion, you're when you take the humanity out of any industry, whether it's sports, yes, Dorothy Perez says
Absolutely,
everyone
Dorothy.
deserves a piece of the pie. Absolutely agree with that.
It's a
Yes,
big
especially
pie. That's the thing.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
massive pie.
Yes, you should deserve to be compensated, get a piece of that for the work that you generate and all this. And again, what I was saying was that when you take the humanity out of any industry,
Yeah.
it it it's not the same. It's not the same, especially when you grew up in the industry where it was all about the humanity, and now you're living in a different time where there's like not much humanity in it.
Right.
And again, I compare it to the baseball thing where the baseball is all about the analytics. Forget about the heart of the person. Forget about their will to win. Forget about, you know, the intangibles. No,
Yeah.
it's about the numbers. It's about what numbers you generate and, who did this how many times that's all they care about.
I think
And
about
I've
Kurt Gibson.
yeah, exactly. To
He
Kirk
would
Gibson
not have been that.
hitting
He
that
would not
home
have been
run, he
that.
wouldn't have been in there,
He
right?
wouldn't even be in the game.
Again, the guy who the guy who they take out in the last inning of a no hitter because they told him to because
Statistically,
statistically they
the
told him to
numbers.
do that, and then what happens? They get
The
killed,
computer said do it.
and that's why I've left, that's why I've kind of left baseball in a lot of ways. I'm not into it as much as I used to be because of that. You've
Yeah.
lost me on that,
I will. I
and
was. Yeah, I haven't been into it, but when you and I had a conversation on one of the shows about this,
mhm.
I really left it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. It's and the same thing you're going to look at the same thing when it comes to acting and these types of things because when you start seeing the artificial stuff happening, and it's going to be totally different,
That's
you
true,
know.
Dorothy. There is no gut or heart in AI. That's for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, nothing can replace the human
Spirit.
will, the spirit and the will to accomplish to do things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, how many people
It,
have done amazing
yeah.
things in life because of this sheer will? A
Yeah.
computer cannot replace that. I don't care how much AI you put in it. It
Correct.
cannot replace that human will to win or create.
Correct.
Even for
Right.
the artist, right?
Yep.
For the artist and the chat GPT and all these types of things. You
And it's
know?
funny, like the Jetsons had it right, because in the Jetsons, all the technology things were to for them to live better, to do
Right.
better things. So I like AI
Sure.
for a lot of things.
Sure.
For a lot of things. I started using it recently just because somebody told me, what was it? I can't remember. I had a conversation with somebody and they said it was an interesting thing, And I said, well, let me try to use it, and then I couldn't get on, whatever. But anyway, I figured it out, and now I could see it be of value if, let's just say, I'm writing a paper about the Revolutionary War, and I want to kind of have a format, or I want to have an angle on it that's my own angle. I'm looking at it through the point of view of a soldier on the front lines, or maybe a soldier in the back lines, or
Hmm.
a soldier that saw some his best friend die, or or a wife sitting at home waiting for who's not coming home, right? Wait.
Right.
So you use the different perspectives and the different ways that you want to look at and tell a story, and you write into AI a story. Give me a synopsis, or give me an idea for a story about this. It's going to spit out what the internet has already,
Sure.
right? But it's going to take your original idea from an angle. So then
Right.
that angle can give you an idea of something, and you can look at it and be like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, that's a good idea. Never will it write the whole thing, because it's never going to be good, because it's always going to be something that's already been out there, already
Correct.
communicated. So it's never going to be good.
Right.
And I know, because I've read stuff that's AI, and you can feel it. And matter of fact, there's a thing where you can read an original. Okay, if you take one page of Hemingway and just read any page in any book of
Hmm.
Hemingway,
Hmm.
right, and then take an AI story and take the same scenario, whatever the book is whatever the book is, and then write an AI would write one page about that subject that Hemingway was talking about. It's going to be crap. I guarantee you, it will be crap. You'll read it and you'll be like, "This sounds so robotic. It sounds
Yeah.
so fake. It sounds There's no heart in it." What Dorothy said. There is
Yeah.
just no heart there.
Correct.
So that to me is really the biggest win, for the entertainment industry right now, is that we're going to be protected. Um, I would hate to have another short Puerto Rican photo. They take this amazing physique that I have here, and they start using it through eternity to tell amazing stories with this amazing, and especially this. You take this, if you AI this, I'd be so pissed. So at least now I feel protected. Um, Yeah. So anyway, so congratulations to everybody that worked so hard, and all those that were on the picket line, and they were out there fighting, and Fran Drescher, who's leading the charge, and her whole team, just so committed and so just wonderful people. It's just really, really great to see that happening and stuff. So congratulations to everyone there. Um, so moving into our subject, um, you were saying. I had something that I opened up here. What were you talking about, George?
What in our subject as far as what we're
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about today?
yeah.
No, I was.
Did I?
Well, the last thing I talked about was having difficult conversations.
Oh, right, 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 right,
Right.
right. Yeah, because I mean, if you have a lack of resilience in this industry, you're dead.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah.
You're dead. I guarantee you. I mean, rejection, criticism, setbacks. If you don't have thick skin, if you can't bounce back from failures, if someone says something negative to you and your mental health um, is too weak, that you don't get out of bed for a week because somebody said that they didn't like my dress, whatever. If you're in that space, first of all, reach out to me and I'll help you get out of that space. But also, if you stay in that space, you will not make it. You will
Right.
not make it, because it's a constant struggle. I mean, George and I have been doing this show now for going on over 2.5 years, and we still right now sort of learning things,
Hmm.
and we're
True.
still learning things. Now, did we think that we failed? No. We look back at the work that we've done. We've interviewed legends, amazing human beings doing, we've had an incredible run, and we're going to continue that run, but it didn't get to where we wanted to be at this point. So we're restructuring, we're talking it out. But man, if we felt like, oh, this is pointless, whatever, This or what people say all the time. It's too saturated out there. There's 12,000 podcasts that get launched every single day, and how you're gonna survive. I don't know who talks like that,
I
but
was gonna say who talks like
this is
that.
the kind of people I talk to. But I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
yeah, it's really it's a complex industry to navigate through.
Hmm.
Um, and but having the awareness
Right.
and knowing this, and having a group of people around you that you can kind of hold on to and be like, I'm struggling right now. Can you help me? Or what should I do? Or joining a group or listening to a podcast or listening to our show, whatever that it is, you need to have that stability because I'm telling you, you will not make it.
Well, think about it. You and I, right? We got into music. We started, it's not like when we started, our music career, like music had just started. No,
Right.
there were like the Beatles were, the Beatles had
The
come
Beatles
and
had already
gone.
broken up.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin came and went, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the greatest, some of the greatest musicians and artists ever had come and go, and we're just starting our little band
Yeah.
at that. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like we were saying, well, it's saturated, so we shouldn't
Yeah, I
try it.
mean Pearl
No,
Jam and Nirvana,
you know,
that was our era, right?
right?
And the Red Hot Chili Peppers are out there. There's no way we're gonna make it with those guys out there, And it was we had other issues, we had lack of other things, you know what I mean? Not to say that we reached the level that we should have, we all
Hmm.
know we should have gone further,
Hmm.
but we played, we recorded records, we had a great time, and we learned
Yes,
so
yes,
much from that
yes.
experience. And that's why we do what we do today because we know, yes, do this, don't do that.
Right,
Don't connect with this
right.
guy, stay away from that guy. And it's really knowing, as I've gotten older and I've learned more about stuff through my studies and through my church and stuff like that, I've learned, that you can find personalities that may be dangerous to you.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
they are dangerous and they have certain characteristics that you can pinpoint.
Yeah.
And when you know what they are, because you hear them say certain words, and you know what, we all know them.
Hmm.
We all feel it. You feel when somebody says something negative to you. We don't react to it. We
Right.
just think that that's just the way they are,
Yeah.
and you don't put their ethics in. You don't say, "Hey, that's not okay, man.
Right.
That's bullshit. You should not be treating me that way. That's not okay." If we were to do that more often, it would chill out around you. And
Right.
you may lose some friends.
Yeah.
Good. You
Yeah.
may have some family members that don't talk to you anymore. Good. Because if they're that petty, that your art, the passion that you have for your art is brings you to that level where you communicate that that's not okay. If they don't see it, then you don't want them in your life. See,
Correct.
because that's
Correct.
that's the best thing. It's a barometer. I mean, it's how you measure those around you. Because when you communicate honestly, you're gonna get them to say what they really think. And when they say what they really think, then you're
Yeah.
either gonna cut, or you're gonna embrace,
Well,
right?
you and part of the issue is a lot of people are afraid to do that, right?
You're
Because they don't want to
terrified of it,
lose, right? They don't
which
want to
is
lose this.
amazing to me.
Yeah, they don't want to lose whatever whether it's a friendship. Sometimes it's relationships.
Yeah.
Let me here. Let me say something about me. Like so, for example, like my wife and I started dating. She, I had a conversation with her. I was very upfront, especially when we were serious and we were dating for, a few years and everything. And I was very upfront. I said, you have to understand that music is a part of my life.
Yeah.
There's going to be a part of you that shares music with me, that shares, it's just of who I am. This is,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is what I need to do. And if you're on board with me, great. Let's do it. Okay. We had to have that conversation because she had to understand that this is something that this is where I came from. This is what I was doing. And she understood that. Now, my wife is not a musician. My wife really, at the end of the day, we were kind of polar opposites, really, when you think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, man.
But she understood that point
Yeah.
and she was willing to go with it and say, okay, let's do it. And then, and then getting married and doing all these things. Now, I made my wife a part of it. She came to the
Yeah.
gigs, she
Yeah,
hung
I
out with
remember.
us,
Always,
right? We had a group, we would go out,
always,
we
yeah.
would hang out, we would do all these things, and she was a part. She had a great time
Yeah, it
in
was
these
fun.
types of things. But there was also the tough times I was where she had to be home and I was gone, right?
Right.
There was a times where, I had there was a time where I had to make a difficult decision where I was asked to be on a recording session on Valentine's Day.
Oh man.
And it was a good buck. It was a
Yeah.
good buck. It wasn't like a $20
Yeah.
day. It was a nice chunk of change. And I had to weigh the decision of, and it was like maybe 3 or 4 hours on a recording session. I was like, but it's on Valentine's Day.
Right.
And I made the decision to do it. And now
Wow.
I did it. I recorded. It was a nice gig. I got a nice chunk of change. Now I can
I
tell you that my
remember February 15th when you had the black eye. I do remember that.
I could tell you my wife was not happy. Okay,
I'm
was not
sure.
happy. She was not.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but what do I do I not do it? And do I and the other
You have
the other
that
piece.
regret and you have that
Yeah, well,
the
here's the
loss.
other piece to it also, right? Getting married, for example. And again, everybody can, has to look at it in their own way because everybody's circumstances are different. But getting married, do I say, okay, do I give up music, get married and go on that train? How miserable is my marriage going to be if I'm not able to
Horrible.
do what I want to do?
Yeah.
Right? I'm actually not serving you
Right.
as your partner, as your
But you're not
husband.
giving her you.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
not
I'm not
you.
giving, this is not me. This
Yeah.
is just what
The
I
dead you.
think, you may want that, or I may think that that's the what should be, but it's really not me. How
Right.
is that really going to work at the end of the day? No, it's not going to work.
It's cancer.
I would have rather said, well, you know what? If you don't want to marry me, I love you, but if you can't be married to me and take me for what I am, I completely understand that. But I
Right.
have to be true to myself. Just as if you not marrying a musician, maybe that's your truth.
Right.
Maybe you want to be married to a carpenter or whatever it is. Okay,
Right.
and that's fine. Maybe we'll both be happier if we do that. But
Correct.
again, this is a part of the conversations that you have to have. And if you have them early in a relationship, especially as a musician, as an artist, or whatever in the beginning,
Yeah.
and that person's willing to understand you, because an artist is a different person.
Yeah.
They
And
they're
they're not.
mentally they're in a different place.
They are. Yeah. 100%. And I think, and it's great, a great point that you brought that up because I actually remember also having that same conversation with my wife
Right.
and telling her exactly this. I was like, you have to understand that this is it for me. This is all
Hmm.
I think about. Now she beat me senseless, but the point that I'm making is no. But she said, okay, fine, and you know, in all honesty, to be fully transparent, I didn't go along with that. I still retracted. I retracted, and tried to become something that would make her and her family
Yeah.
happier. And I went through a lot of ups and downs, a lot of downs, and I was always wondering, like, why is this struggle? When I found out what the reasons, and I realized it's that I was just not really. You grew up with me. You know
Yes.
that I would grab my bike and I would just go wherever I had to go and I'd do whatever I had to do. And the things that I did not ever do. I never took drugs. I
Right.
never sold drugs. I never drank alcohol to excess where I was like I had a problem or anything like that. So I never did the chemical things. But I always did what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know, and but when I found that there was this big missing chunk of who I was that was lost,
Yeah.
it literally lit up my life and it until this day, I don't I don't ask, can I do something, and
Right.
that not every woman is going to be on board with that.
Correct.
It's just not something that. But my wife's an artist as well, so
Hmm.
she does understand that, and this was something that she didn't have when we met, and now it's blossomed, and her art is amazing. And I talk about her art a lot on the show, and
Hmm.
so she's in that world as well now. I had to recruit her. But now, it's like when I have things to do, I go do them, and it's not always a great thing. And I do make sacrifices. I don't go to the game, my son's basketball game, which I didn't go to last weekend because I had an appointment with a client, and
Yeah.
I had to
Yeah.
go do that. It's not you do make these sacrifices, but you make it for them. I do
Yeah.
spend a lot of time with the family. I
Sure.
try to spend as much time as I can. I'm home. If I'm not working, doing something in a meeting, I'm home.
Right.
I don't go to the social club. I don't go to the bars. I don't go to clubs. I don't do any of that stuff. I'm home. You know, um, and so I think that having that conversation early, like you said, in any relationship, whether you're considering getting married or you're just dating,
Hmm.
you have to you have to weigh in your environment on where you are in life.
Yeah.
You know, if you are not happy in your current situation, it's because something is bringing you down. And it could be your own choices. It could be maybe you're making really bad choices, or it could be someone in your environment that's just making you feel like they're helping you, but in actuality, you have a lot of knives in your back, and they do not want you to go that route.
Sure.
There's also the insecurities of that as well.
Yeah.
You go out, you become very successful, and you're gonna go somewhere else, and you're gonna have infidelities
Hmm.
and those kinds of things. That's another thing that can weigh on a man or a woman,
Correct.
or just a partner, because there's a lot of attention that you're not that you want to get the attention, but this industry gives you that.
Yes.
This industry is a byproduct of it, and it's not even a good byproduct, but people will know you. I think
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds or Ryan Gosling, one of the Ryans, was talking about that, and he said, "Oh no, it wasn't even him. It was Ben Affleck was talking about how he hates that part of it.
Mm.
Because it's sometimes he's not in the best mood. He's a
Yeah.
normal human being. He gets up in the morning. He's not having a great day, and now people are putting cameras in his face, and he's like, I just want to go get coffee, or I just want to
Yeah.
go pick up my kids from school, or whatever he's trying to do." But he's in that limelight. Now people will say, well, yeah, but he's got all that money. He should be grateful. Well, yes, he has that money, but he's a camera in your face does not make you happy no matter how much money you have
True.
when you're trying to just live your life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And the success that you find is because you put in the work.
Yeah.
You put in the work, and that's your reward. Your reward is the work that you put in.
Correct.
So, but yeah, early on, it's also that whole thing about show me your five friends and I'll show you your
Hmm.
future kind of a
Yeah.
deal.
Hmm.
Uh, it's all spot on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't. It's all spot on. Look at the five people that you hang out with the most. How are they doing in life?
Hmm.
You know, and if for some reason they're doing great and you're not, then maybe you're the problem.
Yeah.
You're lucky that they're letting you hang out with them. Or maybe they're bringing you into an uncomfortable space and you just can't function in that environment. You need to find four more great friends, or five more, whatever it is. So I think that all that really rings true when it comes to trying to find the proper environment to nurture a successful career.
Now, you can also say that you're on the right track when you can still do well in spite of those people.
Yeah, I
So
mean, there's
because
some. Look at
they're
Tina Turner.
yeah, because sometimes there are people who are in your life, family, friends, or whatever, who you can't just walk away from necessarily, but you can hold true to what you're doing, and in spite of that, and kind of have the awareness of it, and say, okay, these folks are not on my track, or they're, they're kind of pulling me, but I have the awareness that I know I'm not going that direction. I'm actually going in this direction.
Yeah.
And I've had that in my circles, in my family. There were some family members and stuff like that, they're not people that I would want to, get advice from necessarily. But for
They
me,
offer it.
especially, yeah, they'll always offer it, but for me, especially since music, and especially since you and I created that positive atmosphere in our bands and in our music, ever since then, and even in business and stuff like that, I've always had the mindset of, listen, even if I have to go alone, even if
Yeah,
I don't have five friends around me, I don't care. I'm still going.
still going.
I'm still,
That's exactly right.
so, and I've put myself on that road and I've never left that road. I'm
Good.
still going down that road. And no matter how many people try to take me off that track,
Yeah,
I'm still going.
yeah,
So so that's one of the things also when you can be successful or just be on your road in spite of those things happening, you're doing okay.
yeah.
You're still chugging along.
Yeah, yeah, and just think how well you can do if you had people around you that were just supporting you.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you think about the what you're leaving on the table as far as opportunities and even money,
Right.
that
Yep.
you're leaving there because you have those. And, one of the things that's difficult. You're right. It's family. People say, well, you can't walk away from family. Well, you can. It's not easy. You know
No.
what I mean? But and I've done it. And
Hmm.
it's challenging. It's not an easy thing. And we won't get into it. George and I have our cousins, so we have family that we both know of. But they were pretty damaging to my family, and I had
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
make sure that stops, and I did
Right.
stop it, and I had to walk away from that. And that kind of a decision is what ends up happening is suppression. You can't live with suppression. You
Right.
can't deal with suppression, right? You can go along with certain things, and if it's not really that damaging, you can move on, because we all have people around you. And there's somebody right now looking at what we're saying that's positive, like this. What I mean? There's
Right.
always somebody who's looking
Sure.
at you like, guy always talking smack. He thinks he knows everything. What I mean? I'm sure that goes on. You know what I
Or you'll
mean?
get
Because
an
it's
email
fine.
about it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm fine. Send it. I get. Trust me, I get enough messages from people telling me to shut up, and I just
I'm
love them
sorry I
more.
sent that. Good.
Yeah, I was like saying, George, why every week? I mean, every week. You think I don't recognize all the emails? You just changed George and Batista. Batista George, G Batista, George G. I know them all. So, but when you make that decision, it really does enlighten your way. It
Yeah.
really does brighten your way, and you can really see. And it may be a little painful, but I guarantee you that you're not the only one.
Correct.
And I guarantee you that when you do make that decision, that they're going to go off and they're going to tell other people, and those other people are going to come to you and say, "Hey, what happened?" And you're going to tell them what happened, and they're going to be like, "Yeah, yeah, they did that to me too."
Hmm.
Yeah, I've been having it because it happened to me,
Yeah.
and it's happened to me at least 3 times with 3 individuals that I broke away from, and it actually came back, and I realized, oh, I was right. They were just living along with it. So you
Yeah.
can't. What I was saying before was like you can't. Living with depression is bad. It's how you get illnesses, right?
Hmm. Sure.
Suppression has to be shattered.
Right.
Shatter suppression. That's what you do it. And you shatter it by confronting it and being like, that's not okay. I don't like that. I don't want to hang out with you. I don't want you to come to my shows.
Hmm.
I don't want to work with you. And if they're paying you $1 million, then you just lost $1 million.
Yeah.
Or you take the $1 million, live with the illnesses and the suppression and the miserable, and start taking drugs or whatever, and then you're gone and then you're done. But you got your $1 million. Well, good for
Right.
you. You know what I mean?
Right.
You have to make those tough decisions, and
Hmm.
you can't really rely on uh on someone that's making you feel bad. You can never rely on them just because they're providing something that you think you can't live without.
Correct.
That could be
Correct.
love, that could be money, that can be your house, that can be so many different things. But finding a way, first of all, there's communication. That's the first step.
Hmm.
And you communicate your thoughts. And the second thing is you decide whether you're going to handle it or you're going to disconnect from that.
Yeah.
There's only two choices.
Yeah.
You handle it. By handling, you can communication. You say George did it. George sat down with his wife.
Hmm.
This is what I love. I cannot live without this. If you can't live with them, then that's the communication part. That's the handling part.
Yeah.
And how long have you been married?
23 years.
23 years. Did it work? Yes, yes. And same conversation I had. Did it work? She beat me. But listen, the part getting beaten by a tall woman,
Over
the
and
same,
over.
yeah, it's my jam. I love it. Turns me on. No, but I mean, we had the conversation, and it was tough for many years. I would say a good 10 years. It was a lot of struggles, but we worked it out, and now we're going on 20 years that we've been married, 22 years together, and we have two beautiful kids, and we're living in Tennessee, and she's a wonderful artist, and that alone
Yeah.
is success.
Yep.
That alone is for me such a win because I was able to get out of the environment that I grew up in and to be able to build this thing with using some of the knowledge that I've learned and was able to now put it together on this show and with the writings and all my blogs and all the stuff that I've done in my films. The story, if you look at my films, there's always a story in there. There's always a moral something in there. In every single
Hmm.
film I've ever shot, there's always something in there. There's always the conflict. There's always the challenge. There's always the barrier, because you need that for a story. Right? You need to have a conflict in order to tell a decent story. But there's always a moral ending. Somebody once told me, "Goes, yeah, yeah, movies always end happy," and they didn't like it. They didn't say it like it was a compliment. They said it like it was a bad thing, and I was like, "Yeah, you're right. My movies always do end happy, or they end in wondering what else can happen,
Hmm.
in
Sure.
wonder, what else can happen with that,
Sure.
what's going to happen next, but I don't like sad bad endings. I'm
Right.
sorry.
Right. Right.
I'm in the Paul McCartney, school of love. you know the word that they use the most, the Beatles, is very
Yeah.
famously known as the word love is what the word that they use the most out of all other words in their songs.
Yeah.
They're the Beatles. Why do you think their music is still influencing? Look at Now and Then that just came out recently.
Yeah.
The new song with Lennon,
Yeah.
John Lennon, and just amazing. Just amazing. So um yeah, my wife's yelling at me. I gotta go. But here's
You
the
know,
thing.
I was listening to John. Gary Null. I listened to his
Oh yeah.
show, and he talks a lot about stuff like this. But one of the things he talked about the other day, and it's kind of related, where he was saying that because for those of you who don't know, Gary Null is he's a health guru for the last 50 years. I mean, he was
Yeah,
known as Mr.
very,
Natural.
very
He's
famous in that
very,
world,
yeah, in the health
and
world, written
rebels
hundreds of
against
books and stuff.
everything.
Anyway, he has a show that I think is the longest health running show ever.
Yeah.
And so I was listening to his show, and one of the things he said was that he would do groups, and in the groups, in like a retreat or something, and one of the things he would ask them is how many of you in this group have felt that you've wasted time in your life doing something or with someone?
Oof.
And a whole bunch of hands went up.
Yeah.
And one of the hands that went up, excuse me, I'm stuck in my throat. He said that it was a woman who was married for like 40 something years. And she said that she felt that she had wasted 40 years
Ugh.
of her life in this relationship. Okay. And he was like, why why would you? And it was something
I
like,
know
oh,
people have done
I
that.
forget, but I forgot what the answer was, that she just kind of fell into it, got used to it, whatever, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, think about that. Think about how many people waste their life with the wrong partner, with the wrong thing, with the wrong whatever. So, when you kind of think about it, not to say that you're necessarily with the wrong partner or whatever the case may be, but like John said, you don't want to fall into that trap
Yeah.
of wasting your life, let's say as an artist, where you're all of a sudden 5 years, 10 years, and you haven't touched anything. You haven't painted, you haven't acted, you haven't played, you haven't done anything.
And there
And you're
hasn't been any
feeling,
encouragement on
and it
that.
hasn't, correct, and it hasn't been an encouragement, only because the life that you're leading now is the life that they want you to lead, that again that people want to put you in there.
Yeah.
Don't waste time. Don't
Uh,
waste time. Just
no.
do your thing, sing your song, do what you need to do.
Find a group.
Exactly, find
Find
whatever it
people
is,
that
do.
even a Facebook group,
Yes,
simple stuff. I mean, you don't have
exactly.
to get too crazy. One of the things that I talk about is, we talk about the four phases that I have in the talent agency. And the first phase is just about everything that we're talking about. These are the questions I would ask.
Yes.
Because as starting a new agency, which, first of all, I want to thank Dorothy, because she said great agency you have, as you have started. So thank you. I appreciate
Thank
that.
you, Dorothy.
Um, one of the main things is that it's not that I don't want to invest time in people that are struggling, but I think it's dangerous for me and my clients to associate with someone whose mindset is really bad, or
Yeah.
who's connected to someone that's really bad. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not thinking about, I would love to help, and I always help, and I always provide information. And for artists that I know I cannot work with because of their current situation or whatever is happening or they can't, or they don't want to, they don't want to work with me, which is also, I'm still supporting them. I'm still giving them whatever I can to get them moving, because the more artists doing better in life, the better the world is going to be, right?
Yep.
So pushing artists to do well is really my purpose, right? So, but at the same time, somebody coming in brand new, I have to find out where they are in life. I
Sure.
have to ask the questions, you know, um, like that question, have you ever spent, that's a great question. Have
It
you
is
ever
great.
had, been, felt like you've wasted your time being around someone?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a major question, because that opens up so many past things.
Yes.
Somebody might say, yeah, my first marriage, but at
Mm-hmm.
least I'm divorced. Okay,
Right.
great. You moved on. But if you're thinking and you don't want to say it, my current wife or my current husband, and you just don't want to say that, and you say, well, I had a boss once, and you're just lying to yourself,
Yeah.
and it's not that we want people to break up. Again, it's the handling that we're talking about, right?
Yes.
It's the
Yeah.
handling. Like, I can't be, I have to be honest and say that, we've had our challenges. This was
Sure.
not, perfect. This was a tremendous amount of work, and it still is to some degree in a lot of areas, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're willing to work on it and you're willing to have that conversation, then you can get to a point, and you can get somewhere that makes sense. And if she, recommends something, and I'm saying, well, I don't really want to do that, we have a conversation about it, or vice
Right.
versa. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's not like, well, no, I'm not doing that. I don't, that's not, that doesn't work either. You have
Right.
to have a conversation about it, but there's a lot of emotions in artists' heads, right? And
Yes.
there's a lot of insecurities and stuff, that, as I get older, a lot of them been handled, but they're still there sometimes, you
Mm-hmm.
still get things, and you still, so I think it's important to really be able to focus on that handling. And if you need assistance in that area, and if you just want to have a conversation in that area, you can always go to this website, which is jhstalentmanagement.com, and you can schedule an appointment to just have a 30-minute conversation with me. You can tell me what you're going through, and I will help you. I will give you tools that you can actually utilize, that you can apply on that day to handle those situations. You have to come honestly. You have to come with an open mind. You have to come with the understanding that not everything I say you're gonna maybe agree with. You may disagree with some of it, and it's okay. And if you say, you know what, I disagree with you, I don't really want to. That's fine too. You know what I mean? But if you say, like, yeah, I don't want to confront that right now, that's fine too. It's on you, right? I mean, at the end of the day, whatever we confront is what is going to dictate where we go in life.
You're right.
And if we don't confront something, well, then that's your master.
You
If
are
you don't
correct.
confront the job, if you don't confront your boss, if you don't confront your spouse or your partner, um, that's your barrier.
Yeah.
That's your future. It's that you can't pray it out,
Right.
unfortunately. Because prayer is wonderful and prayer is powerful, and I believe in prayer, but at the same time,
Correct.
action dictates. You say your prayer, you say, I'm going to have this conversation with my husband, my wife, my partner, and I hope it goes, God, please give me the strength to have this conversation, right? But you got to have the conversation now.
Correct.
You can't be like, please just make them be better people. Doesn't God don't work that way. God works in a lot of ways, but he ain't gonna be like, all right, and then suddenly somebody's gonna come home and go, there, I mean, maybe there's a revelation that somebody could have, on their
And,
own.
yeah, and so, but and sometimes you find that the conversation goes better than you think it may
It
go.
does. I'm so glad you said that, because it totally, you work yourself up to these for these conversations. You're breathing heavy and you're like, oh
Yeah.
God, I gotta have this conversation, but I gotta have it,
Yeah.
and it could be not just, it could be also work related too, right? It could be
Hmm.
also business, consulting conversation, whatever it is. And then you start it, and then you realize, oh, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, this
Yeah.
isn't that bad.
Hmm.
Oh, they're fine.
Yeah.
They're fine. But you have to go into it with expecting everything.
Yes.
Expect it to go well, expect it to not go well, expect it to go south, north, east, west, whatever, but expect it to go. But at least go,
Right.
go, have the conversation, and then let the chips fall where they may, and be able to be strong enough to get up from whatever it was and keep moving forward, right? Because that's how winning is done. You just keep moving forward. Now, if you know what you want, you go out and get what you want. But you get it. You got to be willing to take the hits and not blaming him or her because you ain't where you want to be. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that.
Very nice.
Mr. Sylvester Stallone, which I'm a huge Sylvester Stallone dork. Um, Especially Rocky. Rocky is one of my favorite movies of all time. The
No,
first one.
Rocky is amazing.
Rocky, isn't it right? I mean, man,
It's it's
isn't
the
it like
ultimate story. It's just
it really
it's
is, man.
yeah.
It really is, man.
Yeah.
And I watched it. I still to this day, and I probably did it like a few days ago. I went on YouTube and I watched some of the endings of those fights, and it's
Mhm.
like, and I'm like, damn it, Rocky, I love you. Because it is the story of what we're talking about here.
Exactly.
All the challenges, all the naysayers, all the negativity. And then you take it to Sylvester Stallone, the man himself is living through the Rocky story. He's trying to get this script out there, and everybody wants to
Yeah.
buy it from him. They want to give him $150,000 for his script. A guy who has no money, turning down $150,000 in the 70s because he wants to play the role. He knows there's this his. It's his to take, you know? And he goes out and he becomes a legend, and say whatever you want about those Rocky movies, they were all good. I mean, people could say maybe Rocky 5 wasn't as good, and I think because it ended, well, he lost money, but he's kind
Yeah.
of fighting, still, it was a good movie. It told the full arc story, and
Hmm.
then Balboa, Rocky
Rocky
Balboa,
Balboa. Yeah.
amazing, and then all the other spin-offs and everything else. Just great stories of perseverance, of challenges, and it's exactly what we're talking about, and that's what this episode's about. I didn't even realize we're way past the hour. This is one of those subjects we can just go on and on and on about. But yeah, awesome. All right, so I didn't show our little graphic here. Overcoming barriers,
Hey.
and I have even this set actually animates. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Appreciate it. We are actually going to be doing a few overhauls here. The show, the product that you've been seeing, the interviews that we've actually done are going to be better. the past shows have been fantastic. Our interviews with people like uh, s- um, give me a name now. I can't
Oba
think.
Babatunde,
Oh, Batunde, Steve Smith,
Kenny
Kenny
Aronoff,
Aronoff, Kevin Eubanks,
Kevin
Lee
Eubanks,
Haney,
Dave Sanchez.
Dave Sanchez. We had Hana Lee on. We had Tim Sabatino on. We've had
Yes.
amazing, amazing artists, and those conversations are amazing, and they're going to continue to be amazing. We're going to be focusing on the artists, which is what we kind of have been doing, and George and I have had sort of an aha moment, um, and I think this is probably the biggest aha moment we've had since we've started this show. So I think we're very excited about it, and we're going to be talking about that probably next week. What do you think, George? Should
Yeah,
we?
I
Yeah,
agree.
let's do that. We'll talk about that next week, and we're going to be bringing in some new guests coming in soon. We've had a little bit of a holiday stuff, and I've had some work that I've had to do, but we're going to be doing that very soon, and we're very excited. So if you're still here, God bless you for hanging out with us for this long. My son wants to come in and say hello.
Hello, son. How are you? The
And
better looking one of the bunch?
yeah, and make faces. All right, Ben. You're live, by the way. People are seeing you right now for eternity. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. I don't know where he gets his silliness from.
Yeah.
So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We'll see you all again next week, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For George Batista, John Henry Soto, Ben, my son, and all of us here at Counterparts. Good night. And as always, peace.